Get your offensive line sorted out. Figure out your running back. Who's going to be your backup wide receivers defensively? What's it going to look like in year two of Andy Avalos? Everything happening in spring ball. That's next here on Lockdown Horned Frogs, your team every year.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 seasons. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. FanDuel, you win your first $5 bet as a new customer. You get $150 in bonus bets. Check out the FanDuel app or on FanDuel.com. We're going to talk a lot of spring football today. If you missed Thursday's episode and you just didn't listen to the end and missed the programming note that I gave there, I am currently on a trip with my family on a cruise. So I'm not around at the moment, but I'm recording this and it's available to you. If anything crazy happened in the last 36 hours or so, give or take when you're listening, then my apologies. Hopefully nothing did, and this is totally fine. But if something did happen that was pretty wild and you're like, why is he not talking about that? Well, there's your answer. I'll be back on Tuesday live and real with the real-time updates that I typically give here on Locked On Horned Frogs. Spring football coming up. And so I wanted to spend some time discussing what are the biggest questions around this TCU football team as we head into spring. And so at number 5, this is not something that I think is on a lot of people's radars, but I do believe it's important. Who's your backup quarterback next year? Josh Hoover is clearly your starter. There's no quarterback battle in this season, in this scenario, right? He's going to be the dude. But that being said, will Ken Seals step up and be the guy behind Josh? Will it be Adam Schobel, the true freshman? I've been on the record saying over the past few months, I think it's really important, regardless of where Adam ends up on the depth chart, that they just make him feel like he's valued, like he's going to get opportunities, like he's going to get reps at TCU. And I believe the way you do that is you give him opportunities with the twos, even if you don't have plans for him to take over that spot, or you say, you know what, like, let's make this an open competition. Let's not just pencil in Ken Seals as the guy. And he has value on this team. It's awesome that he's here. He has experience. He's been a starter before in the SEC. All that's great. But we're not just going to immediately say he's the guy. We're going to give Adam Schobel the opportunity, at least, to show what he can do, to play with the twos. In the open practice, since they're not in a spring game, in the open practice, whatever TCU decides to do with the public, give him a chance to wing the ball around and show the fans what's up. And if he wins that job, then good for him. Josh Hoover has been extremely durable since he took over at QB. There's not really an injury concern. I mean, there's always an injury concern, but there's not a history of him going down with an injury. You still need to be prepared, though, in the situation that he can't play or something goes wrong. And I think if I had to guess today, I would say that in that scenario, Ken Seals would be your guy because he has more experience and there's just a comfort level of here's the things that we can do with the offense, with him under center in the shotgun. And we know we can do these things and we can run these plays and we can at least kind of stay competitive. But I would strongly consider giving Adam that opportunity because, I mean, the bottom line is he's your future. You need to play the person that's going to give you the best chance to win. Yes, that's what you do. That's priority number 1 in sports. But you also have to think about, like, okay, over the next 2 or 3 years, what is our football team going to look like? You let it play out with an actual QB battle for that backup quarterback spot. But ultimately, yeah, you got to go with the person that's going to give you the best opportunity to win. At number 4, backup wide receiver. So the starters are set. It's going to be Eric McAllister. It's going to be Jordan Dwyer. It's going to be Joseph Manjack. But really, in my mind, it's not even 1, 2, like the backups 1 through 3. It's more which young guy steps up and shows, hey, I'm next in line. I'm ready to get some opportunities right now. Give me some snaps, give me some chances, throw me the football. But if that doesn't work out, or if we're not quite in a place where we can get me on the field all the time, I'm certainly going to be the person next year. And this is important because I think you have to frame it in today's college football world as the players that don't end up in that spot and that don't get that chance, those are going to be the guys that move on in the portal, right? Like those are the dudes that say, you know what, I'm going to go elsewhere. I'm going to see what I can do. Braylon James, the transfer from Notre Dame, didn't really get much run. This is his chance. Can he break through and be one of those guys? Ed Small. I saw Josh Hoover. He spoke with the media the other day. He mentioned Ed Small. He was like, listen, Ed Small's a dude. He can come in and play right away. Scouts and recruiting people have said similar things about his ability. He's a slot guy. Jordan Bailey, he'll have something to say about that too. I did an episode about him earlier in the week, about his home run threat and his ability to make explosive plays happen. That was something that this TCU team missed last year. Now, they got some things in the vertical passing game, but they missed that home run ability. Hoover also said Jordan Dwyer is that kind of player. He can stretch the field. He's got that opportunity to go down the field and make big plays, which is encouraging to hear as well. But who's going to be the guy that steps up and shows that they're the next in line? Major Everhart, Jakyle Baker. We didn't really hear a lot about Jakyle last season, but he redshirted. He'll have a chance to get his reps and get his opportunities. Terry Shelton, the big 4-star recruit that they landed literally like the week before early signing day. He was committed to Arizona. They got him on campus. They said, hey, let's get this deal done. Let's work together. In a perfect world, the TCU offense is more balanced and they have a better run game. Josh Hoover is making some plays with his feet. He's more comfortable in his own read game. They have a running back that's getting downhill and getting them positive yardage, especially on first downs. But this receiver spot, I think they were so good last year that we've just kind of all assumed like, okay, they'll do that again. These are big shoes that these guys are stepping into and trying to fill. Savion Williams is a freak athlete. Jack Besh turned himself into an incredible outside wide receiver. JP Richardson was incredibly consistent and about as steady as it comes as far as dudes who can move the chains and are going to make every catch and are a security blanket for your quarterback. So to replace all that, it's going to be a by committee approach. Now, I feel like Eric McAllister is going to be a dude. He's also going to need help. You also have the possibility of using your tight ends more this year. Kamorian Pimpton is a super intriguing player, incredible athlete, played his high school ball at North Crowley, spent some time at LSU, not known as a super physical blocker. But the good news for him is you have some guys on this roster, mainly Chase Curtis, who do fit that mold. So maybe he can really focus on being a pass catching tight end. He lined up a lot in the slot when he was in North Crowley. So possibly that's his area of expertise. That's where he's going to live and where he's going to make the most plays. But TCU has to get that sorted out and has to have those clear roles for this offense to really thrive and play at a high level. When we come back, we'll continue this discussion. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Our friends at FanDuel, the NBA is in full swing. My goodness, the Mavericks. Can you have more bad luck? I mean, they kind of inflicted it on themselves by sending Luka Doncic to the Lakers, but now Kyrie Irving tears his ACL. Literally everyone's hurt. I mean, if you're a Mavs fan, you might as well at least make some money off this season. So you can live bet in NBA games. You can do same game parlays. They have live betting features where you can pick a player to hit a clutch three. It's like you've never missed your chance. That's right now on the FanDuel app or on FanDuel.com. And new customers, listen to this, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Again, new customers, you make one $5 bet, you win that bet, you get $150 in bonus bets. That's an awesome deal. That's on the FanDuel app or at FanDuel.com. FanDuel is where the game starts. Make it a priority today to try the FanDuel app, see what they have to offer. Live betting on NBA action, same game parlays, it's all there in the FanDuel app or at FanDuel.com. So question number 3. Is Avery Helm completely healthy? And is he ready to step into this corner spot? Corner was one of those positions for TCU last season. It was pretty rocky to start. There were some rough games there. UCF, SMU, JT Broughton, it never clicked. It never happened. It didn't work out for him. That was not a transfer that paid off in a big way. But they went and got some guys that can help immediately. With that being said, I think the biggest addition for this cornerback room, and it's not really addition because it's a guy that was on the roster last year, but he didn't play any snaps, Avery Helm. I mean, he was a very good corner for this team 2 seasons ago. And he gets to walk in and be a dude right away and slide in to that boundary corner spot. I know it said there's been some offseason chatter about how he's working at the nickel in the slot, but Avery Helm is a boundary corner. Unless I'm completely missing something here, he's a dude that you put on one-on-one situations on the outside and let him go to work. And I think that's what his role is going to be this upcoming season. That's where hopefully he will thrive this upcoming season. Elijah Jackson had kind of a rough year at Washington last season, but he was a starter on a team that played for a national championship. So if he can find that player again under his former head coach and Julius Juice Brown, who coaches the corners, then we're talking about a potentially very good corner for this group. And then Channing Canada, Javon McIvor, Vernon Glover. That's some good depth. Like, that's 5 guys that you believe you can throw on the field and make plays. McIvor really came on at the end of last season and showed some physicality and some toughness that I think TCU is missing. You need to have a confidence and a swagger to play that spot because you're going to get beat. Like, there are going to be times where you just get beat, whether it's somebody gets a step on you or it's a contested catch. Like, you did everything right, but a big wide receiver just jumps over you and takes the ball. These things happen. However, if you're prepared and if you're ready to flush that and get right back at it, then you can be a good player. So there's some serious depth at this corner spot. There's 5 guys who can legitimately play. I think the biggest piece to that, though, is if Avery Helm is ready to go, well, then you have a real starter that you can plug in. And some of these other guys that you brought in, it takes some of the pressure off them to fill in the gaps right away. They can sort of work themselves back into a rhythm. Elijah Jackson, hopefully, can find his footing, get used to being on a new roster, and recapture some of that magic that he had 2 years ago when he was a really good player for a Washington team that was winning games week in and week out. That secondary is very important. If you're going to be an Andy Avalos defense that brings a lot of pressure, you need a secondary that can hold up there into the bargain. So let them go to work and let them do that. Question number 2. And these two things go together. And if you listen to this podcast frequently, you can probably already guess what I'm going to talk about. Number two is who's your running back going to be? Are you going to approach this by committee again? I don't think that's a super wise thing to do, but is that how you're going to go about it? Or do you find somebody who can do this job? So you got Trent Battle, you have Jeremy Payne, you have Nate Palmer. I think my biggest concern is I don't want TCU to end up in a situation where they don't really have a lead back. Now you can divvy carries up, you can divvy snaps up, you can kind of go off and on with possessions, but who's going to be like fourth quarter? You're up by 4 with 2.5 minutes left. The other team's got 2 timeouts. Who can get downhill and get positive yardage? Who can move the chains once and put the game out of reach? Who's that person that can break a tackle and get 5 or 6 extra yards, get that first down, and put you in the victory formation? That's what TCU has to figure out over the next few weeks. And they played it pretty conservatively last year, and they said, you know what? We don't think we need to add anybody. We feel like we have the dudes in-house that can get the job done. Well, they ended up being wrong about that. Now, I like Jeremy Payne. I like what I saw in very limited action with Nate Palmer. I would just say let's maybe curtail our expectations a little bit because it was one game and it was 11 carries. And I think Trent Battle is exactly who he is, and that's fine. Like, you need consistency and you need players like that on your roster to succeed. I just don't think he's a starting running back in the Big 12. Kavorian Barnes, sort of a similar story. This is year 5 for him. I think maybe Jimmy Smith and the TCU coaching staff can find some areas where he can improve and unlock some things about his game that maybe he hasn't in the past, but I don't believe they're going to create an entirely new football player here, right? Like, this is a guy that's been around for a bit. He sort of knows the drill. He knows what's going on. So you need to find that guy that's going to be 15 to 18 carries a game, catch the ball in the backfield a little bit, can pass block, can handle all those responsibilities and do it at a high level so that it's taken care of, right? And question number 1, it's going to be the question for me until I see that it improves. It's the O-line. Who are your 5 starters? And are you in a place where you're going to be better? I love the Randy Clements hire. I just think it's awesome. Very experienced coach. Can help A.J. Ricker. Can help Kendall Briles. Can scheme some things up in the run game. Checks a lot of boxes. Help guys with technique. All that's wonderful. But he's not going to be out there blocking on a week-to-week basis, right? And so you need Cade Bennett to be good. You need him to be healthy, and you need him to be a really good player. You need your young tackles in Ryan Hughes and Ben Taylor Whitfield to step up. Is Ryan Hughes ready to take 70 snaps a game? We're going to find out really quickly. He did a nice job against Oklahoma State. He did a nice job in limited action in that bowl game, but this is week after week, one-on-one matchups against really good pass rushers. Can you win? And honestly, to give this O-line and that coaching staff credit, they were really good at pass blocking last year. And it sort of rolled into, all those things created this perfect storm. Really good receivers, a quarterback who's not afraid to wing it and has done that in the past. An offensive line that is better at pass blocking than run blocking, which pass blocking, in my limited experience, pass blocking is easier than run blocking. There's ways that you can get beat in a pass block, but you can still sort of maneuver and use your body and use your hands to keep that defensive lineman from getting to the quarterback. In the run game, like, you can try to influence block, but you still, if you want to be a successful team running the ball, you have to blow people off the ball. You have to get that guy in front of you and push him out of the way. And that's tough to do. But if TCU can establish a consistent run game, then I think this team's ceiling goes up in a big way. And frankly, I just think it's going to be more important this year because you're playing better competition. I'm not sure you can beat BYU throwing it 56 times. I know Josh Hoover did that 2 years ago, but that was a very different BYU team. I don't think you can go on the road to Ames and beat Iowa State by throwing the ball 50 times. I'm skeptical you can beat a team like Colorado throwing the ball 60 times, even though they did something very similar with Shedeur Sanders. You need more balance, though, to beat some of the best teams in the league, and that's going to be a huge key for Kendall Browse, for Sonny Dykes, for this coaching staff as a whole, as they march towards another season. When we come back, we'll get some thoughts on basketball here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Shout out to Nissan, one of our great sponsors. We're all about the stats because numbers don't lie. When it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada, the numbers are on an MVP level with the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds. It can quite literally carry the whole team plus the gear wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada PRO-4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger moments. Whether you're exploring off-road trails, rolling up to the arena, the Armada Pro brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Again, that's nissanusa.com. Well, I know most of you are probably not super excited about the prospect of men's basketball right now, or you're just discouraged. That loss to Baylor really took a lot of wind out of the sails as far as postseason opportunities go, but they do wrap up the regular season with a game on the road against Colorado. They took care of business against Colorado on their floor this season. They're being TCU's floor. I'd phrase that strangely. But this is an important game because if you're going to make any sort of run in the Big 12 tournament, which you're going to have to do that to keep your postseason chances alive, then you need some momentum going into it. And it would put you at 10-10 in conference play, which I think my pal Tommy Fisher was talking to me about it yesterday. In typical Jamie Dixon fashion, you can kind of view this, you can frame this or view this in a number of different ways. You can look at the talent they had and the injuries they had and say, man, 10-10 in the Big 12, that's pretty impressive. Like, that's a good coaching job. That's a way to keep the team together and keep moving forward and do your best and be competitive. But the Big 12 is not the grinder that it's been the last couple of years. I mean, Colorado, like the game against Colorado, I'm not saying TCU is going to win easily because that's not what they do, but that team hasn't been around the last few seasons. Even if it's a team that's kind of the doormat of the league, they're still probably better than a lot of teams around the country. The depth isn't there this year. But it is a chance to close out the regular season with a win, get some momentum going into the NCAA, or not the NCAA, but the Big 12 tournament. And you're going to have to win, 4 games in 4 days. So might as well start the winning with a victory over Colorado. I'll be back on Tuesday, as I'll be back in the States on dry land. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Thank you for bearing with me through a little bit of a different episode today. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast.